7, the B portion in 1 Samuel chapter 17. And it says, Saul said to David, again, I'm reading out of the NIV version, "Go and the Lord be with you. Go and the Lord be with you." Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic. He put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened on his sword over the tunic and tried walking around because he was not used to them. He was not used to them. "I cannot go in these," he said to Saul, "because I am not used to them." So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in his pouch and of his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand, approached the Philistine. With his sling in his hand, approached the Philistine. Again, verse 40. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand, approached the Philistine. I want to talk just for a few minutes this morning, or the time that I have this morning. I want to talk about the staff, the stones, and the sling. The staff, the stones, and the sling. The more I thought about this, even this morning, as late as this morning, I was watching and there was a news article about a young lady who, she's about 30 some years old. She just received a major, Brother Jay, she just received a major recording contract. She received this major recording contract, David, not for playing an instrument, not for, and her name is Molly Lewis, not for singing, not for anything that we normally associate with recording, not with a major voice, not with an instrument. She received this major recording contract, and now she's being booked all over the country and some instances around the world because of her ability to whistle. Because of her ability to whistle. She literally is an amazing whistler. I mean, you just listen to it, it's just, she's been performing with bands, she's been performing with other singers, and she's been performing in contests. Years ago, her parents recognized her gift of whistling and started entering her into whistling contests. And this girl, you would see her come on stage and she's all dressed in this wonderful outfit, and you think, oh, this girl getting ready to blow. And literally she is. She's getting ready to whistle. She literally has this contract that has allowed her now to be a musician. But her gift is not keyboard, not piano, not saxophone, not a singer, not bongos, not drums. It is whistling. She said in her interview, "I discovered I couldn't sing and I couldn't play, but I could whistle." And even though she said, I thought that was so insignificant, little did I know that this gift of whistling, this ability, I should say, because there are a lot of people that can whistle, but it is her ability to whistle. She literally whistles all the time. She's out in the back country sometimes, on the farm, whistling and whistling to the horses and just whistling wherever she can whistle. They said, well, is it a fact that whistling is something you do when you're happy? She said, no, that's a misconception, because she said, I whistle all the time. I whistle when I'm sad. I whistle, but whistling has nothing to do with whether you're happy or whether you're depressed. It's just her ability to whistle. But what she did, different from most of us who can whistle, is she tapped into the fact that she could develop her gift or her ability to whistle. Many of us take for granted the things that we do have the ability to do because we're so busy thinking it is insignificant. All of us that whistle take it for granted that we whistle, but she took that same ability that so many of us have and developed it, and now has a recording contract. So many of us wish we had a recording contract to do all the stuff we can do, but she got it based on something that most of us take for granted. I know there's one person, I can't think of the guy's name, I think it's Donald, that was singing in, what's his name's choir, Willie Mason's choir. He would sometimes come up and Willie Mason would have him whistle the solo parts to the song. And the audience would just go crazy because he'd be whistling those songs. But that ability, he developed that ability that so many of us take for granted. And that is where I am today in this text. What many of us take and call insignificant, God is wanting to use that thing to cause us to be who we need to be in this life. So it's not just about, as David took the staff, the stone, and the sling. It is what I want to just push a little further and tell us that today I want us to rethink leaning into our comfort zones. Leaning into our comfort zones. Why am I saying that? Why am I pushing that? And I'm going to get into that because this is where David finds himself. David finds himself putting on Saul's armor to go fight Goliath. This, what many consider almost 9 foot of giant. And here's David, a little shepherd boy, with nothing that seems significant, worth fighting a giant. But David says he will go against Goliath. And Saul said, okay, well, you can go against him, but you got to go against him. We got to get you armored up. We got to get you ready. We got to get you so that you can have what you need to fight. So here's my armor. Take my helmet. Take my tunic. Take my sword. Take all of my armor. And you put it on so that you can have a better chance in Saul's mind, and probably most of the folks that you deal with every day, so that you can have a better chance of being successful. Do what everybody else is doing, and that way you will be successful. Do what everybody else thinks is the right thing to do, and you will be successful. Matter of fact, part of my message is about this whole idea that people have stressed and placed upon us, is that what? You need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to, David, get out of your comfort zone. You need to stretch yourself and get out of your comfort zone. But I want to rethink, thinking church, the fact that you need to not get out of your comfort zone, but you might need to lean into your comfort zone. David says to Saul, he says, Saul, I've got all this stuff on. He says in verse 41, I believe it is, I cannot go in these, he said to Saul, because I am not used to them. In other words, they are not a part of my comfort zone. Your armor, your stuff that I got on, that I don't know about some of you, but too many years of my life, I've been trying to wear other folks' armor. I've been trying to wear what makes other folks feel comfortable. I've been trying to do what sometimes would make a mom and dad don't want us to do so that we can make them be proud of us. Whether it feels right for us or not, we're always trying to get out of our comfort zone so that we can get in somebody else's comfort zone. And really, a lot of times, that's what it's all about. They're just trying to get us in a position where they feel more comfortable with us. Because when we walk in our true, authentic selves, many times it makes other people uncomfortable. When we are true to our own self-identity, it makes other folks uncomfortable. And I'm sure even with David, it made Saul uncomfortable when he started taking off Saul's stuff. He started giving him back his helmet. Oh, Lord, that's prophetic today. Some of us need to give some folks back their stuff. Yes, that's what that needed right there. Some of us need to give. Today need to be your day where you give some folks back their stuff. Some of y'all need to take a literal and a proverbial trip back to some of them folks' houses and say, here, thank you so much. I know you meant well, but I got to give you back your stuff because I am uncomfortable in your stuff. I know it's comfortable for you, but it ain't comfortable for me. I know it might have felt good to you, but it don't feel good to me. I know it might work for you, but it ain't working for me. I've been wearing this for 31 years, and finally I gotten the message that this just don't work for me. Some folks have been told, you need to get out the box. And God told me, I believe, told me, I'm not saying he told you, but he told me, he said, I don't want you to get out the box because you ain't used half the stuff I got in the box for you. Some of us, folks telling us we need to get out of the box, and God has said, but you ain't used the stuff that's in the box yet. Why are you going outside the box and you got 50 things that you haven't even bothered to use yet? Some of us outside of the box, and I need to get some of y'all back in the box. Because you need to go back in the box because you left your gift in the box. You left your identity in the box. You left your authentic self in the box. And I'm here to tell you, you outside of the box, but you ain't working. You're outside of the box, but you don't feel good. You're outside of the box, but you depressed. You're out of your comfort zone and you sad. You're out of your position and you're feeling like you don't belong. That's because you need to get back in the box. And you need to lean into your comfort zone. Tell somebody, lean back into your comfort zone. You're too busy trying to please everybody else. I've told you many times that so many of us, we're living 80% of our lives is based on somebody else's vision. 80% of us live our lives based on other people's vision and expectations of ourselves. And I'm here to tell you, it just ain't comfortable. Somebody said it just ain't comfortable. It ain't comfortable. I've tried it. I tried to live other folks' vision. I tried to live other folks' expectations. And every time I do, it just gets more and more uncomfortable. Every now and then we got to do some stuff we don't like to do. I know we got to do it, but I'm quick to do it and quick to get out of it. I learned to do it quickly and get out of it quickly. I got some stuff that I don't wear, some armor that I don't wear but once a year. That's because it ain't good for me, but for them 2 hours once a year, and then I put it back in my closet because this is my armor. Come on, y'all. Because we many times are not leaning into our comfort zone. And I'm here to tell you, your comfort zones many times is where your increase is. It is where your deliverance is. But we've been trained, we've been conditioned, we've heard it so many times by all of these motivational speakers, and many of them I like, but many of them that I really like are the ones that try to get you to be who you really are created to be. It goes into this, and I just remind us, most of us are told to get out. Get out of your comfort zone. Get out of the box when we haven't even touched the gifts, the talents, the abilities, the true sense of who we are. We haven't even touched it. And many of our true abilities, our true desires are in the box. Somebody said they're in the box. Most of us, why? And let me just go here for a minute. Most of the reasons why we don't like the stuff that's in the box, Sister Erica, is because we are familiar with what's in the box. And let me tell you, it is true that familiarity many times breeds contempt. Familiarity many times breeds contempt, meaning we get angry with what we know because we know it too well. How do we know that? We can prove that from Jesus' story. Even Jesus said a prophet is without honor in his own country. That's because they already know you. They know what you can do. Oh, that ain't nobody but David. Oh, that ain't nobody but Jay. That ain't nobody. Oh, come on now. I ain't dealing with that. Why? Because they're too familiar with us. Sometimes it is the blessing that you had to move from South Carolina because they were too familiar with you down there. You were never going to get the respect that you deserve down there. That's why you had to move. Yeah, everybody else is there, but some of you are more appreciated because you ain't there all the time. Hello, somebody. They appreciate you more when you go back because they ain't looking at you every day. But it'd be a whole different story if you were always there. Somebody said it'd be different. It'd be different. Yeah, it'll be different if we were always there. And look at David. David says, I can't do it. I can't go fight Goliath in your armor because it doesn't fit. Somebody said it doesn't fit. Many times you got to understand if it don't fit, you must have quit. No, if it doesn't fit, you need to let it go. Some of us are trying to wear stuff that we know it don't feel good on us. We know it don't work for us. We know it's not what we need. It's not what we need. We know it. But yet we keep trying to squeeze ourselves literally into it, knowing it don't fit. And I ain't talking about clothes. I'm talking about stuff, period. Our lives. Many of us trying to squeeze ourselves into other folks' lives, into other folks' vision. I love it. When you read the story, Malcolm Gladwell's, I refer back to it again. He talks about David and Goliath in his book, David and Goliath. And he says, what I love so much is really what most folks like Saul felt like, if you don't put on my armor, this armor, you are going to be at a disadvantage. But what David understood, this is what self-awareness gets you. David understood that really, if I wear your armor, I'm going to be at a disadvantage. But if I go with what I know, it's going to be an advantage. David actually knew that staff, that those stones, and that slingshot was going to give him the absolute best advantage to slay Goliath. David already knew it. Many of us are taking for granted them 5 smooth stones that we got in our pocket. We're taking advantage. We're forgetting about that slingshot. Why? Because everybody else got this and they got that, and all I got is this slingshot. And what is it about that staff, that stone, and that slingshot? That staff represented the fact that shepherds often carried around with them a staff. That staff, many times, they would do, you ever seen people write on a tree? You know, Erica loves Jay, heart on the tree. And then you go back 20 years later, let's go see Jay if it's still there. But we carved in the tree when we were here. And you go back, oh, Jay is still there. Well, that's what that staff represented. Because many times shepherds would be out in the field And believers in Hebrew understanding, believers and shepherds that followed God would often write. They would use the staff as a notepad, and they would inscribe scripture. They would inscribe information. The staff would hold. They would use sharp objects to inscribe information, inscribe letters, inscribe things that they need to remember on that wooden staff. And so when David grabbed his staff, on that staff told David everything he needed to know in order to win against Goliath. On that staff, he had already had all of his victories. On that staff, he had the bear that was slain. On that staff, he had the fact that he killed the lion. On that staff, he had that he killed the fox. On that staff, he had everything that he had already done, all the victories that he had already won. So when David grabs the staff, it only reminds him that use what you got, because you've been successful all this time. Ain't no need of going in somebody else's stuff, in somebody else's staff, in somebody else's armor, because you've already got the victory with your stuff. Somebody say, my staff reminds me that I've already gotten the victory. Some of us, you ever seen victories? They're marked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and given the marks. So David on that staff had the marks of all the victories he had won. So David already knew that there's no way Goliath can beat me. I don't care how tall, how big he is. And many people talk about the fact, and Gladwell talks about this, that we don't even understand that really many giants, those who have that part in their amygdala that squeezes and get caught up in the brain because of the height and because of the growth, really causes a problem. Most of us don't realize that the problem is with giants and giantism is they suffer from bad sight because of the squeezing and the what happens in the amygdala, in the brain. And so really, Goliath is at a disadvantage to start with. Goliath was depending on David taking Saul's sword, because he knew if he goes with Saul's sword, he got to come close. But David knew by the wisdom of God that getting close to this giant was going to be the death of me. But this slingshot, baby, you can be back there 50 feet away, and I guarantee to get you. David never even had to get close to Goliath. It ain't this kind of slingshot. It's this kind of slingshot. You see some of them in the Eastern country today with those slingshots. David wound that thing up, let it go, struck Goliath right in the forehead, killed him dead. Never even had to come close. He only had to use one stone. He had 5 chances, but he only needed 1. That's because when you're using what God has given you, when you lean into your comfort zone, you ain't even gonna need all the stuff in the box. All you need is 1, but God will let you have 5. God will give you 5 gifts, but he know you don't need but 1 to get the victory. Somebody said just 1. So David knew. They were saying, other people were saying, you know, he's so big, you know, what are you going to do? And David said, well, the beauty is he's so big, there's no way I can miss him. So some of us are asking, how are you going to deal with that? I'm here to tell you, some of your giants in your life, they're so big, there's no way you can miss them. David knew it. The only thing David used for the sword is when he killed Goliath, knocked him all the way down dead. The only thing he used a sword for, and there's a whole nother message, he used Goliath's own sword to cut his head off. Well, at that point, it didn't even matter because he was already dead. Well, the one thing, God will equip you with the one thing you need when you need that. Because even though he had to cut the head off to prove to all of the nation that he was defeated, even when that time came to you need a sword to cut the head off, God had already supplied the sword. So even when you need the one thing, that's outside of your comfort zone. God will make sure you even got that, because you're only going to need that temporarily, because you will have already what? Gotten the victory. Somebody say, I will have already gotten the victory. So what I want you to do, lean into your comfort zone. Stop running away from the stuff that everybody want to tell you. You need to get out of that. You're too comfortable. What I want you to do is, as it's been said sometime recently, and it's been written a lot about, what do we mean by lean into it? Some of you, I want you to do what they call it now, social experiments, and even scientifically, that it takes, what, 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything. What I want you to do, I want you to commit some time to the things that you feel comfortable doing. That's the problem. Most of us don't spend that 10,000 hours developing the thing we love. We'd rather spend all our time trying to develop something we really don't like and wonder why we don't get the victory in those areas. Because we spend so much time uncomfortable. So I'm here to tell you, even with 10,000 hours, I don't care if you spend 10,000 hours doing something you hate, I don't believe it's going to bring you the victory you want. Because the truth is, real victory comes when we do and lean into what we're really called to do. Somebody say, I need to lean into my comfort zones. David shows us that we need to just lean into our comfort zones. What do you love? What has God placed in you? What is your passion? What is your gift? I go back to Molly. The thing that everybody takes for granted is the thing that somebody else gets to victory, becomes successful at. All you gotta do is lean into it. She said, I ain't gonna try to sing, I can't sing. I ain't gonna try to play, I can't play. But I can't whistle. But what if I lean into my ability to whistle? What if I stop committing so much time to stuff I really don't like, I really hate? I know it's not easy because some of us been doing it so long till now we're stuck. That's gonna have to be a whole nother revolutionary message. How do we get people out of situations that they've been doing so long that they hate, but they've been doing it too long, they feel to get out of it? Because now we don't know, so many of us have forgotten what it is we really love. What it is that really what brings us joy. I talked about that some time ago with discovering your spiritual gifts. A lot of times your spiritual gifts are directly connected to your passions. You want to find all of these great, wonderful things when really the thing that will really bring us joy, bring us peace, bring us happiness is the thing that's right there, been in the box all the time.